Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is stick it to the man. Well, you shall be sticking it to the man, that is very much the case. And that is not just a randomly chosen title. So do not concern yourself with that. You might already notice in the background the art style is a little bit unusual. It's by a company called Zoink. Have they made anything remotely important? No. Mostly a mobile developer. So to see them come up with this, well, I think it's one of those situations where you make the games you need to make in order to actually make your living and keep the lights on in the office, and then you make the game you actually want to make, and Stick It to the Man feels like maybe, just maybe, that was that game. So, before we begin, let's have a look at the options menu, shall we? And we can explain exactly what this is all about. So, it's a bit lacking, let me put it that way. So the video options are, for the most part, fine. You've got full screen on and off. You can customize shadows in depth of field, just in case you either just don't like them aesthetically or you need a bit better performance. I mean, right now this game's running at about 600 frames per second, so for me, it doesn't really make much of a difference. It is a port from the PlayStation 3, and it was also available on PS Vita as well, if I recall correctly, so I wouldn't expect this to be too taxing on your machine. Also, the brightness slider is kind of nice to have in-game, because maybe you don't want to mess with your desktop gamma too much. Then you got your audio sliders as well, music, sound effect, and voice, which is always nice. And they are sliders, they just didn't bother to actually, put any sliders in it. So if you hold it down, it works absolutely fine. The music in the background that I'm deliberately talking over is actually licensed, so I don't want it to flag, so I'm going to keep talking and talking in one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, so no one has a chance to interrupt. It is really quite hypnotic. The problem is, what is missing from the options menu is actually any kind of rebindable keys, or indeed a key layout. And this is something that is problematic once you get into the game, because it doesn't give you the tutorials and the tooltips in keyboard and mouse format. It gives it to you in 360 pad format, which makes very little sense, considering I had no 360 pad plugged in, and the game originally came out on PS3. It's just a little bit odd, so I assume they took some liberties with the porting there. Maybe it came out in 360 as well, I'm not 100% sure, but let's get into the game and show you exactly what's going on with it. I think the biggest port issue that I have with it has almost certainly got to be that.
Here, this is my hypnotically induced fantasy land.
Don't worry, just behave as you normally would, knowing that I am always with you, watching and silently judging.
Ah. Sweet.
So, welcome to Stick It to the Man. Why is it called Stick It to the Man? Because you have this giant elastic purple hand thingy, which allows you to collect various stickers in the world, and you can then stick them to the characters. Now, this is actually a 2D game, and yet, not in this area, but in some areas, you can actually walk forwards and backwards towards the back of the screen or towards the front of the screen. Now, the game doesn't seem to actually use that in any way, but you can accidentally get too far away from your objectives and other stickers so you can't collect them, which was incredibly annoying. We did a research stream on this, and we had all the people in the chat talking about various things. We got stuck on something, which was really annoying. We couldn't pick up this particular sticker item, and we couldn't figure out why, and then we realized, oh, we're too far forward on the screen. The game never explains that. In fact, the game's actual tutorials are pretty piss poor. They don't explain a number of different mechanics that the game actually has going on with it, as well as the controls. So in order to actually control the game, you use WAS and D, and then you use your spacebar to jump there, and if you hold down the right mouse button, that enables you to look into the minds of the people around you. So you do the whole mind reading thing, and then the left mouse button grabs stickers from the environment, and then if you scroll your mouse wheel, you can change around your inventory. So the way it described this game is probably a point-and-click platformer. So let's see what's inside his head.
Science. It allows you to do things like this in real life. Yes, I certainly am glad this is how science actually works.
There we go. Okay, so we're going to advance through this little dreamland here. There are two main sequences in the game, the dream sequences and the actual world itself. And there is a lot of cutscene stuff, an awful lot of cutscenes. You might be surprised by how many cutscenes are actually in the game, but I think the easier way to consider this game and actually understand what they're trying to do is that this really is a point-and-click game. It has some platforming elements in it, but for the most part, it's point-and-click puzzle solving, meaning get access to this item in order to unlock this thing, which gives you this item, and then give it to this, figure out which item goes with what. So that's how that goes. But the game is absolutely laden with dialogue and cutscenes. And that's actually the game's great, well, it's not the game's greatest strength, it has a better strength that I'll talk about in a minute, but it's one of the game's biggest selling points, but it's also one of the biggest weaknesses of the game because it constantly takes control away from you. Now, for the dialogue, you can actually accelerate it, but for the most part, you cannot skip the cutscenes. I don't really know why you'd want to, because the cutscenes really make this game. There's so much really, really good dialogue going on, and actually very hilarious writing, I've got to say. But it's more of an interactive story in the vein of a point-and-click adventure game by, say, LucasArts than it is anything else. The platforming is kind of basic. Now, for the most part, you can either grab onto the side of objects to jump onto them, or you can use your hand to grab onto pins, which are in the background there. So if I grab onto a pin, that'll pull me up here. However, there is an agent there who is going to try and horribly murder me. So I'm going to look in his mind and see if there's anything I can use.
Just had a quick 2-second long micro nap, I'd feel better. Nope, still sleepy.
Alright. So, in his mind, there is an action that I can steal. This is a sticker. I'm going to grab it with my elastic mind arm, and then I'm going to apply it to him. So he goes to sleep, and then I can advance. So, there are some minor stealth elements to this game. Apparently, it gets a lot more stealth-orientated later on, which can become somewhat annoying, to say the least. That's definitely something to bear in mind there. But for the most part, the game involves looking inside people's minds, finding out what's going on, finding out what their problems are, and then solving them in order to actually progress. Which is actually very, very satisfying, and it helps that the writing is just really, really good. Yeah, so you can also accelerate the dialogue to go all the way through it, and you can actually jump out of any of these just by clicking again. So, that's pretty much easy enough to do. There we go. Is this giving you a Psychonauts vibe? It probably should. I think it wears its inspirations on its sleeve. There's an awful lot of Tim Schafer-esque stuff going on in this game. It's very bizarre. At some time, well, in some places, it's a little bit dark. I wouldn't say it's hugely dark or anything like that. I think that's not true at all. But it does get a little bit dark every once in a while. But it's actually kind of a feel-good game a lot of the time, which is pretty surprising, I think. A lot of the problems really involve getting people back together, and I think that's kind of neat. Aside from that, you'll be dealing with these sort of basic stealth sections, which usually involve just finding the right agent and putting them to sleep, because you'll only get, like, one sleep sticker, and you've got to figure out which is the most important agent to put to sleep. Or you could just run away from a lot of them. If they catch you, you will respawn at any of the Mr. Copy machines around the area there. Now, I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. This is mostly just inside this guy's mind, so you're not really being spoiled during this section at all. But aside from that, you're going to be doing the basic platforming to get to those areas. And the way that I found that the game played out for the most part was that it was really a domino effect. You talk to everybody, you figure out what's going on, you find out the first domino that you can tip over, and then the rest of the dominoes fall into place, because usually that person will then yield a sticker item, which you use on the next person, then you use on the next person, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think you can kind of see where that's going. I messed this up completely, so I'm just going to let him kill me. There we go. Because I'm going to have to grab his thoughts in order to send that guy to sleep, because this guy patrols, and I can easily avoid what he is doing. And these elements are not massively... I mean, they're just in there to actually give you a little bit of a distraction. They're not massively satisfying, but they do the job. I hope that they get a little bit more creative with that later on, because the actions that you can grab out of mind so far have just been sleep actions. So it's a very, very basic bypass of simple obstacles, really. What I will say is the aesthetic of the game is incredibly good. I don't think you can really argue with that. I mean, the aesthetic's fantastic, the writing's great, the sound is great, the actual voice acting, I wouldn't say is all great, some of it's really horrible. They like to use a bunch of different accents, and I'm pretty sure that some of the voice actors are not speaking in their native accent. And it sounds like it. It almost sounds like Jesse Cox is doing half the voices. Is Jesse Cox doing half the voices? It's a possibility. Who knows? We'll find out in the next episode of this particular conspiracy here. But most of the voice acting, I think, suits the game. The game is very, very odd. It doesn't have to be really serious voice acting, and more often than not, it isn't really serious voice acting, and I think that helps a lot. But this is one of those games that I think for the most part you could probably just watch and you'd get almost the full experience. There's definitely a degree of satisfaction in actually getting your way through this game and solving the various puzzles. And it's almost like, a good way to describe it would be like Phoenix Wright, or just indeed like any other point and click. You could watch Grim Fandango the movie, which is actually a video that exists, and you could get the Grim Fandango experience. And you wouldn't get to play it, but a lot of what makes Grim Fandango special is the voice acting and all the cool stuff that ends up happening in Grim Fandango. And this game suffers from the same problem, and I think most point and click games do. So if you're someone that's looking for really interesting game mechanics, I like the idea of being able to grab various stickers, which end up being items, but if you look at it, what you eventually realize is, oh, this is actually a point-and-click game with a different coat of paint on it. These stickers are just items that you'd regularly get in a point-and-click, you just get them in a slightly more unusual way. But I still kind of appreciate the fact that they took that formula and they put a different spin on it. I'm not 100% convinced by the actual platforming elements of it, and so far, this being in Chapter 5, probably about maybe 2 hours into the game, I don't really think that the platforming adds all that much, and most of these stealth sections that are going on really don't satisfy me in any way. But story-wise, voice acting-wise, aesthetically, it is really, really impressive. And I always look forward to going on to the next level to see what crazy world and crazy characters we'll get to meet. And we've already met some amazing ones. Met what appeared to be some kind of dog that had some really big issues. He'd been tortured as a puppy by a bunch of mobsters, and eventually we end up giving him a big set of teeth that he can use to bite them. There was an alligator who was trapped in a sewer pipe that didn't want to eat the chicken that was being offered by its owner. You had to offer him human flesh. Then you stole his teeth, and then he made up with his owner, and they're all a big happy family again. There's this overall theme of reconciliation that's in this game for some reason. Yeah, I don't really know why that is, but I'm kind of happy that it is. Ooh, that's a new action. I haven't seen that before. Okay, so I guess I can steal that.
Oh, if I put this on an agent's face,
Ah.
I think he's me.
There we go. The game likes to explain that, doesn't it? There we go. Okay, so you can go get him, and then I'm gonna go run for it. There we go. That should do the job. Very nice.
I mean, I'm handsomer, right?
But if you like the storyline and you are really into the various problem-solving elements of this game, then I think it will be a really enjoyable experience for you. It's supposed to go on for about 5 hours. I can definitely see that. There's people with more hours on record. I don't think there's a huge amount of replayability. In fact, I don't think there's any. From what I've seen, there don't appear to be any kind of secret side problems. I think you need to do all of them in order to progress on the level, because that's just the way that everything works. The items that you gain from one position are very important and kind of required for the others. Oh, no, I should be able to get away from this. There we go. So there's no real replayability to it, but the actual journey is pretty enjoyable. What I will say about the port is that it's pretty lazily done. It's not a case that it doesn't work with a keyboard and mouse, it's just they never bothered to explain how it works with the keyboard and mouse. When I actually got this hand, it didn't explain what it did. You can actually move it around with the cursor keys, but there is, from what I could tell, literally no reason to do that, because everything can be accessed via clicking. When I got this mind-reading thing, it told me about the left trigger instead of the mouse button, and I didn't know how to scroll through my items for about an hour in, until I eventually found it accidentally. The map screen, which is say, oh, hit back, is actually M. You know, just for the hell of it. And every now and again, the game seems to bug out. I had a glitch whereby I went into the map, then went out of the map again and couldn't jump. So that was a little bit awkward. And I don't really get why that would happen, because these mouse controls work oh, bollocks. These mouse controls work absolutely fine. Why couldn't they have just explained them, you know? For a game that really likes to kind of hold you by the hand and say, what if I put this agent's face on here? And really not let you figure that out. It's really odd that they wouldn't actually have proper tutorials. It's not that the game actually holds your hand throughout the entire thing. Through the actual puzzle solving, it will happily just let you figure it out yourself. But for the other component, this kind of stealth component, it really, really wants to tell you, you better do this! Because you know, you better. It might help with your progress a little bit. I don't know, I guess it was just an oversight. when it came down to the port. I don't think it's worth condemning the whole game over, and it's not something that you can't figure out with a little bit of common sense, but really, I think that that's something they could have done a little bit better. Because aside from that, the port seems absolutely fine. Mouse and keyboard controls work well across the board, really. So, conclusion. Well, I've had a lot of fun with it, but only in the sense that I really enjoyed the writing, and that allowed me to get over the fact that the game interrupts you consistently. I've been quite fortunate, I think, throughout this section that it doesn't do it that much, but in the first 4 acts, it's nothing but cutscene, 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 lots of dialogue, and you've kind of got to do the dialogue in order to figure out what the problems are in the first place, so that's something to consider. You can fast forward the dialogue, so I do appreciate that, but still. I think they... Oh, bollocks. Could have done that one better. Oh, it spawns back here? That's kind of irritating. Never mind. I think the genre melding works fairly well, but it's almost like this game could have just been a point-and-click game. Does it benefit from being a platformer? I think it to some degree it does. At least once you get a decent amount of actions that you can use to bypass these, because you can consider these stealth sections really just to be a real-time point-and-click puzzle. So I think... as long as they don't overdo it, which I've heard that they kind of do later on in the game, then it's a nice way to really break things up. Break up the monotony of the puzzle solving. But really, I think it's the puzzle solving that really is satisfying. Because it's actually like solving problems in Scribblenauts. Which, when I come to think of it, was actually just nothing but a giant point-and-click game with infinite items in it. Well, there you go. That's a revelation for you. But no, that problem solving is satisfying. It's fun. And... if anything, I would applaud the actual aesthetic design of the game and the voice acting and things like that. I think all of those things are absolutely fantastic. The game absolutely deserves to be praised as a result of that. Let's see. Let's grab that again. Oh, we gotta be... click it. Quick, quick. Is he gonna come down this way? No, he isn't. Okay, so I can actually... no, I can't make a run for it that way. Oh! These bits do get a little bit irritating, I admit, but never mind. It's a fun story. It's a fun story well told. It's a fun story well presented, with occasional minor frustrations. So if you're in the market for something that'll take you about 5 hours to finish, or maybe a bit longer if you're terrible at these stealth sections, then Stick It to the Man is definitely not a bad choice. I enjoyed it so far, although I've got to be honest, I'm kind of tempted just to watch the rest. My name's been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Stick It to the Man, currently available on PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, and Steam for $15 or your regional equivalent. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and I'll see you next time.